ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cuz You Don't Know Football. Listen, guys, we are the second episode into our Fatal Flaws series. That's right. This is the series created by Cuz You Don't Know Football that basically exploits every team's fatal flaw. Now, of course, every team can't be perfect, okay? We've seen some teams that came close, but we see where they can be beat too. So every team has a weakness, and we're talking about what's going to exploit those weaknesses. So this week, we're actually talking about Fatal Fall series in the NFC West and the AFC North. Okay, we get a little AFC, a little NFC, and we're going to do our thing. So actually, I got a couple special guests in today. One that you've seen before, one that's going to be a little bit new for you guys. So, this is going to be fun. All right. So I'm actually just going to bring them straight in, and we're going to be ready. And we are going to be ready to go.
Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How's it going
Brian,
today?
Brian, welcome to Cuz You Don't Know Football.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Man, we are lucky to have you, sir. Listen, man, it looks like you were ready on this one. It looks like you came prepared for this one, okay?
Just a little bit.
That's all right. So we're actually just waiting on your cousin actually to come on. So,
Okay.
so, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Brian. This is Czar's cousin. Now I know what y'all thinking because we had your cousin on a couple times, and they probably thinking exactly what I'm thinking. Two might be too many of y'all because we talked to we talked to your cousin and we were like, you know what I'm saying? So he talks a lot. Hopefully not. That you don't talk a lot. So we're just trying to get him on.
Okay.
So why don't you give us a little bit about you? Just say a little bit about what you do. How'd you come into contact with Cuz You Don't Know Football? Everything.
So I'm in radiology. Love radiology. Been in the Philadelphia area for a long time. Uh, Sadly enough, I'm not a Eagles fan. I'm sorry, y'all. I can't be an Eagles fan. But I've been a 49ers fan since I was 8. Love football, always have. I've played, I've coached. You know what I mean? Like, it's just football's a passion for me that I've always had. Always loved football.
Okay. All right. Here's the loudmouth right here. Sorry, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Cuz?
Yeah, I mean, let me.
Oh boy, see, he already starting early. You see.
Oh. It's only one way to be if you're me. I mean,
I understand. So Brian, just to let you know, I'm sure we talked about this a little bit more, but actually I was in the medical field for 11 years before I stepped out on my own and did my own thing too. So we got a lot to talk about. Hopefully your cousin didn't disrupt you while you was trying to save lives. Tell you your quarterback sucked like he did mine. Okay, I just want you to know I went through some stuff. I've gone through some stuff, and it only made me stronger as a person.
Well, we save lives in the army together, so we spend a lot of time enjoying football. A lot of times from abroad.
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you both for I salute both of you for your service, and I appreciate you.
No
I
problem.
know
No
you guys
problem.
sometimes don't get all the love that you deserve, but I appreciate what y'all did for me because I reap a lot of benefits from it, and I thank you, gentlemen.
No problem, sir. No problem.
So once again, as I was telling all of the audience, thank you guys for joining us in our Fatal Flaw series. This is a series created by Cuz You Don't Know Football, in which we talk about every team's their fatal flaws. There's no such thing as a perfect team, and I want to know why every team why they won't win the Super Bowl, even though one of them is going to win the Super Bowl. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to pick some division winners in this. So actually, I want to start with Zar. Let's start with you, bro. Let's get into this. Let's get into this AFC North real quick, man. Let's talk about this.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm ready. I'm ready for you. What you want?
All right. So I want to start off with the obvious. So let's go somewhere else. Let's stick with the Browns. Let's stick with the Browns first. All right, so talk to me. What are the Browns' fatal flaw? What don't you like about it? Why would they not win the Super
To me, the Browns' fatal flaw, and I hate to say it because I'm gonna sound like a hater, and I wish him well. I hope he does very good, but their fatal flaw would be Deshaun Watson.
Bowl?
Deshaun Watson was a premier quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that 28 game hiatus from the league has had an impact on his production. Last year, his QBR dropped from a 63.7 to a 38.3. He wasn't even on pace to hit 3,000 yards last year. I know he's not a traditional pocket passer, but he was a perennial 4,000 yard
Mm-hmm.
person.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was when he was with the Texans. Absolutely.
And that's without wide receivers. I mean, like he has talent around him, and I really hope that I'm wrong, even though he's in my division. I'm a Deshaun Watson fan. Um, he's dynamic. He was dynamic in college. He was dynamic with the Texans. But right now, the weakest link and the fatal flaw for that team is Deshaun Watson.
Okay. All right, Brian. Let me hear from you, man. What you think? What you think? What's the Cleveland Browns? What's their fatal flaw?
History. History is their fatal flaw.
It's a good one. That's a good
Six
one.
and
Continue
10,
to
7-9, 8 wins. You get one 11-win season, and everybody's looking out there and they're like, it's going to be them. They're going to be the guys. They're going to be the ones that come out and they're going to take over and they're going to take out the Steelers and they're going to take out the Ravens and they're going to take out the Bengals who've been doing it year after year. No, not the Browns. Sadly enough, I grew up where the Browns, sadly enough, and Browns fans are going to hate me for this, but we used it as a euphemism for defecation. The only way that you can get the Browns to the Super
Browns,
Bowl,
huh?
that's the only way you can get the Browns to the Super Bowl, right?
Wow.
Listen, the Browns for years have been. I'm going to step out and say that they've had more years of having number one picks than anybody else who I can remember in football, and there's a reason for that. They just don't have from the top down in leadership what they need to get there. And I don't know that they ever will. But something has to change in the Browns organization to get them from to get them to keep an 11-win season going. To get them to keep, but it's not all their fault. That's a hard division. Listen to what you think about when you hear. You think of the Steel Curtain, the Steelers. You think of the Ravens for that amazing defense that they had for so many years, with and without Ray Lewis. So you're talking about a culture in the AFC North that you're going to lose because of the people who you're going to go against.
No, that's
And
a
I love
valid
the
point.
fact that the Bengals have changed that culture.
That's a valid point. Actually, you guys came on here. Y'all came ready. I see y'all came ready. So actually, my thought is actually a little bit of a combination of what y'all both said. So I'm not in the disagreement with either one of y'all. I do think if they have a fatal flaw, it's going to be Deshaun Watson. And so when you look at the rest of their roster, so one thing about a quarterback, I think a great quarterback always has the ability to bring up a roster or take a little bit less and do a lot more with it. So what Deshaun Watson is given is a great defense. Well, not great, but a very good defense. They have a top 5 corner. They have 2 pass rushers, and one of which is one of the top 2 pass rushers in the NFL. That defense is ready for the playoffs. They got one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL, Nick Chubb. And then they got Amari Cooper, and you know what I mean. They got some guys at the wide receiver. So I think their biggest weakness on their teams actually is their like wide receiving core and figuring that out. They've never been able to figure out Njoku. I don't know why. I think he's always been good ever since he came out of Miami, but they've never really been able to figure him out. But he's also had flashes. With that said, I think Deshaun Watson, for them to be a contender, Deshaun Watson has to go back to that Texans form where he's taking this roster and saying, yo, I can do so much more with it. He's shown that he's had the ability. I don't know if he'll be able to do it. And that has more to do with the Cleveland Browns in their history for whatever reason. Like they just sometimes can't figure it out. You know what I mean? But but I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. If Deshaun Watson gets back to that Texans form and he can do something with these wide receiver and this core, this is a Super Bowl contender. Whether you like that statement or you hate it, this is a team that can go into a playoff game, and whether they're home or away, figure out how to beat you. But that is dependent on Deshaun Watson doing his thing.
Like you said, that has a lot to do with their defense and their running game.
Absolutely.
You figure 532 attempts for 2,490 yards. That's a pretty good running game. One of the what's that top five, top six in the league last year. That's pretty good. And nobody wants to be the team who's trying to win from behind and throwing the ball 1,000 times. So if you're putting it all on Deshaun, if you're putting it all on him,
absolutely.
If you're putting it all on him, you're probably going to lose that battle.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think they go into this and say it's all on him. That's the thing. So if he can handle his handle, then all of a sudden they do have the ability to control how this game is being played. So I saw
give him some consistency though. That's what they need. They need consistency. They need the ability to stick with somebody, cultivate them, cultivate the line, cultivate the defense, and make it happen. But they're wishy-washy. And sadly enough, it's hard to do from a losing standpoint. Because when you're already losing, we watched the Raiders do it for so many years, if you recall, right? They kept firing head coaches for the same reason. So you'll end up a lot of times when you're trying to fight out of that quicksand that you just keep fighting harder and harder to keep losing more and losing more.
Got you. Sorry, I saw you about to say something, brother.
I was going to say, like, they definitely have, like, one of the best rosters in football, and they've had one of the best rosters in football the last 3 or 4 years. They went out and they put someone everywhere. Like, this isn't a Texans team where you asking Deshaun Watson to cover up the where they're lacking. But I mean, everybody can't be like Michael Vick and miss football for 2 years and come back to form.
Come back strong.
Michael Vick actually came back better, but that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, so we'll definitely have to see there. But like that was good. That was a good start there. All right, cool. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk about the Bengals. Gentlemen, either one of y'all could pick this up. What is the Bengals' fatal flaw?
Go ahead, B, you go first. So sadly enough, I think that the Bengals' fatal flaws themselves. They've gotten to a point to where as though.
Okay, I see what's going on here. You on the side of history with your points.
No. The last couple years, right? AFC Championship, right? One of the best teams in football. I mean, the Bengals are exciting to watch. And I'm not a Bengals fan. But to watch football, oh man, let me see some Bengals playoff football. I love it. They go out there, they kill it every year. But they just haven't got over the hump. I do believe that it's coming for them. I just don't know that it's this year. I think that they haven't gotten to the point to where as though they can get through whoever the other team is. They're great number two. They just haven't gotten to the point to where as though they figured out how to get number one. And honestly, there doesn't seem to be a fatal flaw with them. I wish I could look at the team and say, oh man, they're bad here. They're not bad anywhere. Mm-hmm. They look very strong.
They're not terrible.
They're a team that overall probably has one of the best rosters in football, if not the best roster in football. Look at that AFC North and tell me that there's a team that can lose maybe outside of their quarterback Burrows. Maybe they can't do that. But outside of that, I feel like they could lose anybody else and keep it moving.
Got you. Okay.
They've got strength and depth.
Got you. All right, cool. Tazar, talk to me.
I think they're fatal flaw, and I feel like it's obvious because every team, this is the most integral part to any team, the quarterback. Joe Burrow had an injury in college. He had an injury his first or second year in the league. He
Yep.
recently had a major calf strain, and they don't know when he's coming back. Now,
Joe Burrows has an injury every preseason now. This isn't new. Every preseason he gets hurt.
he had two knee surgeries, and now he has a calf strain, and they're calling it a grade 2 calf strain. This is going to put him at a higher risk for injury, and I'm going to double back on the quarterback issue. If your quarterback keeps getting injured, then there's going to be issues with that offensive line. Now, the things that you do in the offseason to correct the offensive line woes, you don't know if they're going to pan out because as you're correcting your offensive line, those players are aging, and the teams you're going against, they're upgrading their defenses. They're getting more pass rushers. They're getting younger pass rushers. They're everything that you do to fix, someone else is also doing to prevent you from succeeding there. So it's a 1-2 thing. The offensive line, they're plugging, matching, moving players, but is that really going to hold up against a Myles Garrett, against a Ravens defense? I mean, like I haven't looked at their schedule so far this year, but when you have three defensive minded teams that you're going against, right? Your offensive line, regardless, you need time, you need a lot of things for the offensive line to go well, and now your quarterback's already going to be hobbled to at least begin the season. And I don't know how long a calf strain is going to last throughout the season, but A plus B equals, yeah, I mean, fatal flaw to me.
Got you. I got you. I got you.
I'm gonna disagree with that, and I'm gonna say that it's a non-contact injury. I'm gonna say that this might actually be in his best interest because what's going to end up happening here is he's just not going to end up playing in the preseason. You talk about 6 to 8 weeks for a normal person to come back from that calf strain, right? And you say, is he really going to take 6 to 8 weeks, or is he going to take 4 to 5? When he comes back, the question is he going to come back too early? Or are they okay with him missing the first or second game if necessary? But I don't think that the injury in of itself, a non-contact injury, remember, this is just him running. I watched the tape of him doing this. This wasn't really anything big. It's like, what happened? And he goes down. So I don't think that it's something that's going to bother him really throughout the season. And the biggest question is, are they going to give him the opportunity to come back and be healthy? And if they do that, I don't see any problem with this injury.
So hold on.
You said yes on a normal person is 6 to 8 weeks, but not a person who's had two knee surgeries. You're acting as if he's a completely healthy human being. He's already missed 2 seasons of his career and a season in college. Like you can't equate the two. The non-contact knee injury, the non-contact calf injury might be due to the fact that he's been injured so many times before.
Okay, so just to let you guys know, this is my point of view. So it's a little bit of what you said actually, Czar. So I think that their fatal flaw is that the roster is actually not constructed properly. So in previous episodes, so I think I said that to you too. I'm a person, I don't think a lot of top 5 wide receivers win Super Bowls, and I can name probably 4 in the history of football that, and the 2 of them are a little bit debatable. That really were like, these were top 5 wide receivers when they won the Super Bowl, and all the other great wide receivers, they either won a Super Bowl after they, you know what I mean, they were a top 5 wide receiver, or they really weren't that great. In retrospect, kind of showed that. You know what I mean? After a while, you kind of saw, okay, they really weren't that great. So one thing I liked about Joe Burrow so much was, when they went to the Super Bowl, it was like 8 sacks in the game. It was like that was the most sacks a player ever won a playoff game with, or a game period. 8 sacks, and they won the game. Well, he did it with 9 now. You know what I mean? So he got sacked 9 times. He broke that record. And so, like, when I look at that, I'm like, that is a statement, because usually how you stop a quarterback is you hit him. That's how you stop it. And that didn't stop him. with that said, I do think after a while you saw it with Andrew Luck. You see it with a lot of these quarterbacks when that line isn't good. No matter how you spin it, those hits start to add up. And I think right now, if I was the Bengals, I'm looking at it and saying, "Yo, I got T. Higgins and I got Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is absolutely positively a top 5 wide receiver in this league." Um, and you have a bad offensive line. And I look at that and I say, when you look at Super Bowl winners, offensive line continuity or a great offensive line has always shown to be more important than these wide receivers. And I'm like, you got two. So I would actually be looking. I know Bengal fans are going to be like, I hate that. But I would be looking on trying to move them to strengthen offensive line. And I do think they need another pass rusher. And I think both of those things are more important than having those two wide receivers. So that's my point.
Would
So
you say that either one of those things hindered them in the AFC Championship games the last 2 years?
I think it hindered them in terms of the Super Bowl. So when you look at the Super Bowl, we're talking about fatal flaws. So like this is if you was in that game, I mean we got to account for that too. With 2 weeks, and I know you got all these bad offensive linemen, you need a certain amount of time for wide receivers to get open. You need to be able to establish a running game to do a play action to keep the defense off Hilton. You know, you got to be able to control the clock and all of these kinds of things. So do I think it hinders them? Yes. I do think them not having the offensive line did hinder them, but also I do think they're another pass rusher away. And I would if I was constructing a team, I would say both of those things are more important than having elite wide receivers. So that's that. So let's move on.
I agree with the trenches, though. I definitely agree with the trenches.
A
You
lot of
can't
people
do it
you don't see
without
it a lot.
offensive,
People
defensive
don't
line.
see
So I
that.
can't disagree with that. The only thing that I'm saying is they seemed like they were good enough to get over the hump.
Now,
Surprisingly, they were good enough to get over the hump.
Joe
You,
Burrow,
you,
Joe Burrow bridged that gap because he releases the ball.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
His
So
That would
like
release
be
is
my
fast.
rebuttal. That would
He
be
has
my
a fast
rebuttal right
release.
there.
you don't see like I mean it can go both ways because Joe Mixon almost got 1,000 yards and he's not a premier receiver or premier running back. You mean,
Running back. Yeah.
but Joe Burrows is bridging the gap of the inability of that line. So it's like tit for tat.
Right.
But Mixon has skills that just haven't transferred over into the NFL as well as what we'd like to see. Mixon is somebody who we talked about before he came in a lot.
I
Like
think
I
Mixon
remember
is a
we
good
had
back.
serious
I think
conversations
Mixon is.
about Mixon back in college. And I don't watch a whole lot of college ball, but Mixon was one of those eye openers back in college that makes you look back like, ooh, that boy gonna be something.
Right. No, I think Mixon. I think Mixon is a good running back. I don't think he's great. I think he's good. But also, just to let you know, Czar, just to let you know, all them things you said about Andrew Luck, that was my argument that you just made for Andrew Luck right there. That said, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to the next team.
That
Let's
sounds like
go.
that's a sting that's been in there for a
Let's
long time.
go. Yeah, that's right.
Ancestral.
That's right. That's right. You see, I held on to that for a while. That was right here on my mind. That was like right at the front of the brain. And I'm like, you know what? One day I'm
It's
gonna
like
get you.
one day I'm going to get him back on that one. I got you.
All right, cool. So let's move on. Let's get to those Steelers. So, gentlemen, what is the fatal flaw of the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I'm gonna go with the quarterback again. I feel as though like this is going to be like one of those situations. I mean, I know Pickett's their guy, but and he has a tremendous upside, and they won a few games with him. But the minute he starts getting in trouble, they went and got Trubisky for a reason, and Trubisky ain't that far off from Rudolph. I mean, like they have three guys to me that are all mid tier quarterbacks that are all going to give you almost the same thing, and you like when you don't have a guy that's as pronounced or as known like a fan favorite. You got three guys out there, and I feel like Steelers fans, they're going to be generic in this because not one of those guys is proven, but not one of those guys is extremely terrible. So like if Pickett loses 2 or 3 games in a row, they're going to be asking for Trubisky. If Trubisky loses 2 games, they're going to be asking for Rudolph back. I mean, like I feel like they're all around the same with what they give you.
All right, cool. Brian, talk to me. What's Pittsburgh's fatal flaw?
Pickett the Pickens not getting picked. That's really what it boils down to. We got to get back to the end of the season where he had started to have less picks, where he started to be a little bit better of a quarterback. Pickett, I don't know. And I think that this is probably the year that we find out. And the fatal flaw is exactly what Quay said. We got to know, is he the guy? And I think that you need this season, good, bad, indifferent. I need this season to know. And I don't know that he's going to get that full opportunity. And that may be the fatal flaw. Because if you already have consigned that you're not going to win a division this year and you're working on trying to be the better team coming up, because it's hard to believe that the Steelers are the team that comes out of the AFC North. They might believe it, but you also have to look at the future if those first couple games go wrong. So the question is, do you know what you have? And I don't think that they're going to know at the end of the season what they have if they play that quarterback carousel.
That's actually that's a really good point. That's a good cover right there. I don't know, but I will say this in terms of the how this show is supposed to go. We're not supposed to agree with each other. With that said,
I hate agreeing with him. Usually, we knock heads on most things that are football. And sadly enough, I was already mad that I'm picking the Ravens coming out of the AFC North. Anyway, to me, it hurts my mouth.
But with that said, I would say so. My answer for them is the same answer I'm going to give for the Cleveland Browns. Listen, if this quarterback, how good does he have to be? So the Steelers, I feel as though they have a type of quarterback. And a lot of times the really good Steelers quarterback or great one, in the beginning, the team usually carries them. And then they start to move along, and then they can say, okay, they develop into that guy that can carry the team. So even with Ben Roethlisberger, so he won a Super Bowl in his second year. That roster was crazy. But like, you know what I mean? They did stuff like hand the ball off more, quick passes, stuff like that. So my question is, how good does he have to be? I don't think any of us expect him to be great. So when you have that much of a question mark, I gotta look at the rest of the roster and I say, well, how good is this roster? How good of a roster do I feel as though this is? I think they have, once again, Myles Garrett if he's the best pass rusher, this probably is the second or third in terms of TJ Watt. Is that defense ready to go? I think Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best safeties, although safety has shifted to a position that's not really as impactful as it once was in terms of the NFL. I think that defense can be very good. I think the receiving core is good, not great. But I like Pickens a lot though. I like him a lot. I like his attitude, I like his demeanor, I like his approach to the game. I love him actually. But so how much of this do I think he has to carry when you talk about that they do have Najee Harris as well and they can hand the ball off. So I kind of lean towards that too. I just don't know. I don't know what he is yet. I think by the end of this year, you have an answer though. That I would actually tend to disagree with. I think by the end of this year, you have an answer because I think you have a roster that can make the playoffs if you had a decent enough quarterback. But they could be very good or they could miss the playoffs altogether. And we don't know. And all that kind of depends on how good Kenny Pickens is. So.
But do you think that they're going to get out and be the leader of the AFC North?
Well, so with Joe Burrow being hurt, I think that does kind of inch the door open because what if he misses the first 2 or 3 games? You know what I mean? Before you might have went 3-0, now you might go 1-2. And now all of a sudden you're behind, and now a division when your division, especially when somebody knows you and they play you twice a year, if they smell blood, all of a sudden a couple more losses might happen, and you didn't see that happen. You didn't see that coming. So
I think that the other way that they hurt themselves was on defense, though. I think that big deal to that linebacker, I don't know that was money well spent. It may not hurt him this year, but it's going to hurt him. I don't know that he's the guy yet. I don't know that he's worth that kind of money yet. Like I was looking at that deal and I was like, who pays that guy that much money for one season of good?
Right, right. You got to be great. If you get great money, you got to be great. There's pressure
That
now.
money's got to go to the team, right? Like,
Right, right. So I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that roster is a top 5 roster, but it's definitely a top 10 roster. But I don't know how good Kenny Pickens has to be, and I don't think that's a question mark for all of us. All right, cool. So let's talk about these Ravens real quick. Let's speed this segment up a little bit, just because we still got to pick the winners and stuff like that. So let's talk about these Ravens. So we ready for you now. Now I get to talk. Now I get to talk. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Objective. My Ravens' fatal
You
flaw.
better be objective too. You better not say this. What I think you're gonna do. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My Ravens' fatal flaw is Odell Beckham Jr. We gave a 30-year-old injury-prone wide receiver who hasn't finished a season in 4 or 5 years, didn't play all of last year. He hasn't had 1,000 yards in 5 years. Like we trust him with reviving our receiving core. We did get a rookie, and there's good things being said about the rookie in training camp, but it's training camp. It ain't. He's not going against the top D backs in the league. There's no pressure, no contact. I mean, like Odell Beckham Jr. is getting a lot of money for 1 year. I get it, it's just 1 year. He's getting like 18 million a year, I believe, and we haven't seen him finish a season in
Right.
most of it.
Right. So actually, I have a question for you because you being the Ravens, aficionado here. How do you feel about y'all's pass rush this year? Like, what do you think about that?
So I feel as though our pass rush gets relieved. Well, in the past, it's got relieved because we're a run first offense, so it gives our defense a lot of time off the field. I feel as though we need more pass rushers, but I mean, some way, somehow, that defense always surprises me. Like every time I think it's like, all right, well, we got to rebuild, we got to re-up. Like we're making moves and we're impacting football. Like Harbaugh knows something that I don't know.
All right, cool. Brian, talk to me. What you think about the Ravens this year? What's their fatal flaw?
I think that their fatal flaw is going to be the fact that I got to I got to disagree with what he said about Odell Beckham Jr. I'm sorry. I think he makes your receiving core better. I think that I think that he's going to come out, and I think he's going to be the TO to your offense. I think he's going to be that sort of guy who's going to come in and he's going to be
high praise.
that veteran who's going to come in and who's going to show people how to be a wide receiver. And I think that they've needed that for a very, very long time. I have trouble seeing how Odell Beckham Jr. makes them not as good of a receiving core. With that said, I feel like that their fatal flaw ultimately is going to be that their defense doesn't stack up. I feel like this year against the other offenses in their division, like the Bengals. I feel like that the Bengals are going to be able to take out their defense a little bit easier. And I don't think that they worked hard enough to really shore up the defense to be the Ravens defense that I want them to be. Every year I look at the Ravens and I expect them to be the best defense in football, if not the top 3. And I think that we won't find that with a top offensive team like the Bengals in their division, that they're going to have to play twice.
Okay.
I don't see them making the moves like if they made more moves with the defense. I feel like that over the offseason, everybody was worried about, can we keep our quarterback? Can we keep our guy? And I felt like that led to them not making and pulling the trigger on moves that they could have made as far as their defense is concerned.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. So my fatal flaw actually I have 2 for the Ravens. One is kind of what you guys are like kind of going back and forth on. I think they have too many ifs. I think that's a lot to put Odell with T.O. in terms of impact on the team. I think that's a lot to expect from him. But if he, like I said, if he like he looked good with the Rams, you know what I mean. So I think we just gotta look at what's going to be. We really don't know what kind of what version of him he's going to be. And I also asked about the pass rushers because I also think if it's good enough, yeah, that's I mean, then I think that defense actually can overachieve or play above what they think they are. Um, but I don't know if they'll actually be able to do that. The other thing, and I'll be quick with this because we got to get to the division winner real quick. The other thing is, so sorry, I told you this. I told you this the last time that you were here. No, the 2 times ago when you were here, and this will come back up. Ryan, I'm gonna tell you, I don't like if a quarterback is not as good as his contract. I think that absolutely wipes your ability to win a Super Bowl completely out. I think, and also most quarterbacks when they win their Super Bowls, it's in their rookie contract and after they make their move. And right now, Lamar's making his money. So I don't know. So I have to see his ability to now, not to say that he never did it because he absolutely did carry this roster. But now I have to see him be able to carry this roster against all these other rosters, and they've made improvements. And now the Ravens' best improvement might have been Odell Beckham Jr.
You worried about the Flacco money issue that we talked about earlier?
Well, I know he's better than Flacco. We don't even need to
No,
talk.
no, no, no. I mean, once
But yes,
Flacco got the money,
you see it time and time again.
It nosedive.
It nosedive the organization. If you don't need, or if you need more than what that quarterback can compensate for you. But like in terms of culture, if the culture is still there, like that defense and that running game, if it's still there, then I think culturally, then it makes a lot more sense. So
I think another problem is going to be the fact that we're talking about a new offensive coordinator now too. I wonder how that changes everything. Is that going to be better? Or is that going to be worse?
We'll see. But we got to get through this segment real quick. So guys, let's talk about these division winners real quick. And what you got? Who's coming out of the AFC North? Who's coming out?
With the injury to Joe Burrows, I have Ravens coming in. I feel like the 4 teams is going to split because they all know each other so well. I have the Ravens, then the Bengals probably making the playoffs. We might even see a push for the Browns to make the playoffs, and the Steelers they're still trying to figure it out. That's how I have it playing out.
Ryan, talk to me.
I feel like strength of schedule is going to hurt the Bengals, and I feel like sadly enough it's going to be the Ravens who are going to come on top. Okay. I don't want it to be the Ravens, but I feel like that this year the Ravens are going to be on top. Now, do they make the AFC Championship? Is it still going to be the Bengals at the end of the year? I don't know. But as far as winning the division, I say it's going to be the Ravens.
So in my way too early, so a couple episodes ago, I did my way too early division winners and playoff predictions, where basically I just picked the playoffs. It was early, I actually, that was before Joe Burrow got hurt. And like I said, those 2 games, I'm still thinking about it. But I just feel as though, so I don't know, guys. This is a tough division because would you guys be completely shocked if it was the Browns?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. If the Browns win a division, I might stop.
That's what I'm saying. I look at that and I think it's not the Bengals. If it's not the Bengals, I think when you look at the next complete team, if that quarterback plays to like how he's supposed to play, it is the Browns. Like it is the Browns.
I just want to say, like, he doesn't even have to beat Deshaun Watson from the Texans. He could beat Deshaun Watson 80% of the Texans, and then they have a very complete roster. I don't really like their receiving core. I mean, like I like Cooper's good. He's really good. I'm not gonna say he's great. They probably got the second, maybe third best receiving core in this division, but this division is really tough. They do have they have a stud everywhere. If Deshaun Watson, he don't even have to be the best version of Deshaun Watson. He just has to be better than what they had last year, and then it's a problem.
That was a very heated conversation about the AFC. I really like all of that. I'm always with all the smoke. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna move straight into the NFC West with when we can talk about my very nicely dressed man in his 49ers attire. My man right here, Brian. We talking about your division now. Let's get to it. All right. I'm a person I always like to start with the ass teams first. I don't like talking about the good teams first. What's that? So that's just how I am. So let's start with the Cardinals. All right. What's their
I
favorite?
hate that we always have to go to quarterback, but I mean Murray, he was supposed to be the guy, right? Like, and when you really look at the Cardinals, I mean, Kurt Warner was really the last really good Cardinal quarterback. And I have trouble really thinking of what it was really even before then. And as a 49ers fan, I haven't felt threatened by the Cardinals in a very, very long time. So we've been talking for 3 years now about the fact that Kyler Murray has to improve his production. But we haven't talked about anything of who will replace Kyler Murray. They haven't made any real moves of replacing him or getting to somebody else or even having an underling come up and maybe, you know, get there. Even I just don't see what they're doing as far as quarterback. I'm happy about it. I mean, shoot, I don't want to have
You
that
are.
worry. I remember how I felt when I was worried about the Seahawks every year.
Got you.
Like
Got you.
I,
Got you.
I know how that feels. The Cardinals have done nothing to make anybody else in the division sweat, and the whole division just seems to keep going.
Uh, did you hear me? You still there? Okay. Okay. Got you. Did you finish your point? Because you actually cut
Yeah,
out. Just finish. So just end what you said again.
the whole division has moved on without the Cardinals.
Got you. Okay.
If
Okay. That's
not for
basically
the Cardinals, this might be one of the best divisions. It probably is the best division in the NFC. But the Cardinals just hold it back. They're that runt team, which is why we're talking about them first.
got you. All right. Zara, talk to me, cuz. What we got?
I'm gonna put this on Kyler Murray. Like, I mean, I think he hasn't really understood the NFL game yet because he comes out hard every year. He comes out tough.
He's a quarterback. You have to understand that.
Listen. I think their fatal flaw is that Hollywood Johnson is going to be their number one receiver. Like,
Oh, Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown.
oh,
Don't act like you don't love him. Don't act like you don't love him. You know where he came from. Don't act
Oh,
like you don't love him.
he's a good guy. I like him as a receiver. I think he's better suited for the number two or the number three, but to be your number one, I know him and Colin went to college together, and I just, I mean, I don't see it being productive. Like they, not with him as the number one.
Okay. So
That and Kyler Murray's coming off an injury. He's still healing, but I feel like him as your number one is your biggest flaw.
right. So I think it's pretty interesting that neither one of y'all acknowledged, Kyler Murray might not even play this year. Like you're saying coming off of an injury, that injury happened late in the year. Like at least half of the season is gone for Kyler Murray. So this is pretty easy, but like what I have to say about the Cardinals is, you know, in terms of fatal flaw, like where do you start? Like they look at when you talk about their whole roster. So Kyler Murray may not even be there. They don't have a number one or number two potentially wide receiver. Their offensive line, even when Kyler was there, offensive line wasn't anything great. Um, their defense, they actually the pick, I can't think of his name right now. The guy that they got from Clemson, he's not even panning out. Like he's not making any noise. They don't have any real corners. Like I don't like they're in rebuild mode. The only thing they have is the fact that they still have Chandler Jones. That's really it. So when I look at the Cardinals, I'm like, where do you start with this roster? Like, this might be the worst team in the NFL this year. I look at them and I look at Tampa Bay potentially, even though I know Tampa Bay has a better defense, but like roster wise, this might be the worst roster. This might be the worst team in the NFL this year. All right.
I can't disagree with that. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, but I just don't see the moves that you're making to get there, though. Like, at least make a splash. At least make somebody trade something. Make a big try. But maybe you've already consigned to the fact that this isn't your year. That the other three teams in your division are unbeatable for you right now, no
Can I
matter who you pull.
can I just say this to you? I think that was the greatest game plan of any team that they could have this season. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, this is
Go
not
for that
your
number
year,
one
okay?
pick.
Just act like it and let's just move on, okay? So that was great. All right, cool. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Rams. So I want you to go first this time. Talk to me. What we got? What we got with the Rams? What's their fatal flaw?
I'm gonna go with quarterback again. I'm beat a dead horse. I'm I'm not a believer in Stafford. He's been in the league 14 years, and not that he hasn't been productive. He hasn't really won a whole lot in them 14 years. He has a Super under his belt, but they gifted him that with like one of the most stacked teams in modern history. Uh, Coming off an injury, and we know as you get older, you're more prone to injuries. Like he's been injured the last year he was injured. Um, I just don't see 14, 15 years in the league. You start getting healthier. Like it don't that's not how it normally works in life. Maybe he became a vegan. Maybe he does Pilates. Like,
He stretches more. He just stretches. He's just gonna stretch more. He called Tom and got TB12. You know, he said we're gonna get this career long.
I thought he was with the boy in Miami doing jujitsu. You know what I mean, to prevent from breaking stuff when he falls. But that, and on top of the fact that White Jesus has a hamstring injury, and I know that when a wide receiver has a hamstring injury, it nags them all year long, and that's their number one. So with Cooper Cup pulling his hamstring this preseason, quarterback 14 years in coming off an injury, that's a fatal flaw to me.
Rebuilding too. So yeah. All right, cool. Brian, talk to me. What you got? What you got?
The issue is the fact that they're rebuilding, but they did what they set out to do. The Rams made a Lakers season. They decided that they were going to go out there and pick up the best people so that they could win a Super Bowl, and they did it. So, are we really mad at them right now because they can't do anything else? That was what they were supposed to do. It wasn't a team built for longevity. It wasn't a team that was supposed to keep being a dynasty or something like
Right.
that.
You're
They
right.
said,
You're right.
we can win a Super Bowl this year, people.
This year. That's a great
And they
point.
did.
That's
Now
a
the
great point.
question is, what are you going to do about it? And I feel like that the fatal flaw is the fact that they're still holding on to remnants of what was lost. That's their fatal flaw. If you've already lost and you won your big game, do what the Ravens did years ago. Go ahead and say, look, we won the Super Bowl. Let's sell the rest of the team off for parts. Let's go ahead. I mean, they got rid of Odell Beckham.
They paid Joe Flacco a whole lot of money.
They paid him money, but they got rid of everybody else.
All right, sorry, you was going to say something. Go ahead, cuz.
I'll say one thing. Y'all sound like casual football fans because this could have been a dynasty. They went to the Super Bowl, had all the pieces, and still had picks, and they decided to sell it all for a mediocre guy. Like that's not a Laker move. The Lakers go out and get the best guy and win it again.
Because they kept doing it.
Hold on, but you can't. It's kind of different comparing football to basketball in terms of how to construct the team.
All I'm saying is when he's talking,
the Lakers kept doing it. The LA Rams didn't. They had 1 year. They said, we're going to do it. We got it. And then they said, you know what? We won it. We're good. We're happy.
It's not like they were a terrible team and they went out and bought a team. They had a team. They had everything they had. The quarterback is out there winning in Detroit right now. He went to the Super Bowl before. They went out and got 3 other players. that quarterback was not like they spent the most on a quarterback and he did that wasn't the move. You could have got any other quarterback and did better and had a longer.
They didn't just get a quarterback.
Well,
they got a quarterback. They got a wide receiver. They got a defensive tackle. They went out there. They went out there and got their roster. They said, "Where are we missing, guys? Yeah, can we buy one of those? All right, cool. Let's get it." They said that they knew that they only had this much of a window.
Hold on. So one thing that I'll say is we were wondering for about like 3 straight years, where are they getting all this money to pay all these people? Like they were like paying top money to like a lot. Now they were in the right positions. They paid the right positions all that money, but they were paying. They had like 2 corners getting like top of the league money. They had 2 wide receivers getting top of the league money. Now the one thing that I will say, now of course that roster was great, but like listen, just like my uncle always told me, listen, the payment always comes due. When you are paying all that money, there has to be a downside. And longevity usually when you put up a whole lot of money, longevity is not a part of what you're seeing here. So I do think that, and once again, talking about a quarterback who is probably better than the amount of money that he's actually getting paid, I don't think Matthew Stafford should have ever got top money. But at that time, he wasn't getting paid a lot of money. So they were able to get all these pieces in a roster that was crazy, and that's what it looks like. That's all I'm saying is, yeah, like, you know what I mean? At this point, so just to give you my answer in terms of fatal flaw, like, what did you expect to happen? You know, like, you paid everybody, and then they were great, and then you couldn't sustain that, so now they have to leave. You have to now build another roster.
But they don't seem to be doing that, and that's their fatal flaw.
Well, they just got rid of everybody last year. This is like the all season where they got rid of everybody. I mean, so this is why everybody is like here, Jalen Ramsey hasn't played one down for Miami yet. You know, like, so this is them getting rid of everybody. They kept their the quarterback that got them the Super Bowl, and they kept their heart and soul, Aaron Donald, and everybody else was kind of like, all right, we gotta let you go.
How many picks did they use on that quarterback? 4 picks, right? That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't like they gambled a lot on Matt Stafford, but I don't think that was like smart.
Well, they got a Super Bowl. Did they win a Super Bowl? Did they get the ring?
I want to ask both of you a question. Do you think any other quarterback with the other upgrades on the roster could have won that Super Bowl?
Absolutely. There's other quarterbacks that could have won that Super Bowl. Yes.
Probably 10 or 11 other quarterbacks that could have won that Super Bowl. Like y'all make it seem like Stafford came and saved them.
That was who was available.
No, that's what was one of the moves.
That's who they could
one
get.
of the moves. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you, like my man Herm Edwards said, hello, you play to win the game. And that's what they did. They played to win the game, and they won the game. Right. So how can you even be mad at a team that did that? My question is, where are we going from here? You got to offload that talent. You gotta get back within the confines of the salary cap and go ahead and make yourself into something that can win in the NFC West.
Yeah, now, you know what I mean? So
they're not doing that yet.
Just to let you know, like you're also, once again, and I'm not beating a dead horse here. You're also giving the answer about Joe Flacco and what happened to the Ravens. That's what it looks like. That's why you don't pay That's why you don't pay a good quarterback a whole lot of money, because everybody now has to go. Okay.
But they did it right. They did it before to win the Super Bowl. And they got it done. Like, this would have been a bad move if they didn't win.
Done. So I didn't, you know what's crazy? I didn't expect us to talk that much about the Rams. So we got other teams to talk about. We actually got the better half of the division to talk about here. So, all right, so let's talk about it. Let's get to those Seahawks. Let's hear some fatal flaws. And I think this is interesting. Matter of fact, I'll start on the Seahawks because I actually think the Seahawks is interesting. And my fatal flaw for the Seahawks is just that they're really a year away. I think like they had a draft just like when they got the Legion of Boom that it boomed. Not to be funny, but it boomed, and I don't think people expected 6-round picks to be as good as they were. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at they got a lot of young talent. I'm looking at their pass rush, and I'm saying they have a decent pass rush. You know what I mean? It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's not a terrible pass rush. And I'm looking at it. Geno Smith had the best year of his career. So I
looks
think the
epic.
only other thing you could say is that Geno Smith he peaked. You know, but I'm looking at them. I really just think that they're more or less a year away, and they'll be able to really contend because I think they are good at all the right positions, except maybe like another pass rusher. So that's really what I think.
Has he peaked, or is that a one-off fluke? I, I, I mean, I'm happy about what I saw with Geno Smith. I mean, compared to what I saw for the Jets and the Geno Smith, and then to see him now with the Seahawks and say, was that the same guy? Like, how is that the same guy? Like,
So that's your
listen,
favorite flaw, Geno Smith?
the question is, can he be that guy again? And that's an
Absolutely.
if, because
No.
the NFL is built to go against quarterbacks and tear up what they thought they could do. So the question is this guy a one-trick pony? Is he a one-time wonder? I think he is. I don't think he's going to hold up this year. I think this year we're going to see the Geno Smith that we saw all those other years. And I think my defense is going to show who he really is.
All right, go ahead, sorry, talk to me, cuz.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I could understand if we were talking about a rookie quarterback coming out and then having a sophomore slump, but my man's 30 years old, 32 years old. I think he's a victim of the NFL monster where, you know, if you don't show who you are in 3 or 4 games, especially for certain quarterbacks, you don't really get a whole lot of chances. Geno Smith's been a journeyman, and there's a reason why he still gets jobs up until this point. He's
He was
I
number.
how
He was a first round pick. He was a first round pick.
Yes, he was.
So the talent is there. The talent, it's always been there.
is there, but he's saying it's a one off. How you a one off and like let's say Russell Wilson's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and
Yes.
in one season on the roster, he already broke some of his records. Like
I think Russ got another. I think he needs to have another year or two to definitely solidify his Hall of Fame. But I think he's fringe.
I think he's definitely like Gino. I mean, it sucks that he finally got a shot at 32 years old, or 30 years old, or 31, or whatever he was last year.
Mm-hmm.
He has all the intangibles, and he did it. Like I mean, last year he threw for 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks. Like he performed in the postseason. Like I last year he basically did half of his whole career in the NFL in one season. That don't sound like one off to me. Like one off means a game, not a whole season in a tough division with all like he's doing a lot. Like my man, what do you want from him? Like it sucks that he's probably not going to get another chance because at 32 years old they're probably thinking replacement more than win now. You know, like because you got a great running back, you got a great receiver, you got all the pieces there.
Actually, I tend to think for the Seahawks, I think Geno kind of has to work because I think they're too good to get one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft. So if he's terrible this year,
Absolutely.
I still think they're going to be they'll probably win 6 or 7 games, and well, then you don't get one of those quarterbacks. So that's really what I think. But I do think that if you're right about Geno Smith, I do think next year we're looking at a Super Bowl contender.
I got one name for you. David Garrard. That's what I think of. When I think of this older quarterback that comes in and has this prolific season, I believe we looked at David Garrard different after his career than we looked at him at that one season.
But you think he only had one season?
Sometimes
I think David Garrard had more than one season.
David Garrard was good, but that one season where he threw like 2 picks, man, we were looking at David Garrard like, whoa, what happened? Why didn't we see this guy? How did we miss this? How did we not see that this is the guy? This is what you want in a football player. But was it?
Okay. Okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. So I think we still gotta wait and see, but that's what it is. All right. All right. I see the look on your face right now. We've arrived. We've arrived at your 49. Look, got Jerry Rice in the background right now and everything.
I had to move the
Got
seat
Patrick
just for that
Willis on
reason.
your chest.
I had to move the seat just for that reason.
Let's talk about your Niners. It's not a lot of holes here. I can tell you that. But I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to tell you, just like I told your cousin down here, you better be objective.
I'm going to be very objective, and I'm going to say that
what's the 49ers' fatal flaw?
Offense. And I'm gonna say, and I know that's an unpopular opinion because Christian McCaffrey's amazing. I was so happy to get him last year. Like I was just so happy to have him on the team. But I don't know that Brock Purdy is the answer. I don't know that Mitchell is going to be able to play all season. He just got hurt again. I'm a little bit worried about that. They're starting to talk about Allen now as a potential backup instead of Trey Lance. Like, I really, you're going to have to really, really stick to this. But I think our best draft pick was either our punter or our kicker. So like the offense really didn't pick up where I thought that it really would. I was very happy we were able to keep Debo. But I'd like some more advancement in our offense. And with the quarterback carousel, Quay brought up a good point about our quarterbacks that I didn't really even think about. I was like, man, look at the depth of our quarterbacks. Look at how amazing we were that we still had people to go ahead and we was able to go with our third person, Purdy, and go deep into the playoffs. And he said, but at the end of the season, why didn't anybody go ahead and pick up another backup quarterback then? Like you on your third quarterback. So you haven't been able to keep your quarterbacks healthy, right? So if you on your third quarterback,
you know one thing
what are we doing?
Let me cut you off. One thing that I've been curious about this whole off season. This might be the thing that's been like a little itch in my brain. Why did y'all like Sam Darnold? I don't know what that signing means in terms of
meant that we was trying to shore up. That was a shore up. That was the move that they should have made. They should have done something else over the offseason, like he said, but they didn't. So they said, look, we got a guy who was a guy. He's the number one overall pick. He could do it. He's a first rounder. He could do it.
Let's get to this real quick. I see you itching. Go ahead.
Your fatal flaw right there. Your fatal flaw is y'all have a hangover from last season. Last season, when you should have picked up another quarterback because you couldn't keep him healthy, you did it this season. And the only problem with doing that is you picked up a young guy, right? Now, if Brock Purdy doesn't perform like he did last year, they're going to be calling for Sam Darnold. If Trey Lance gets healthy, you're going to be calling for Trey Lance. You're going to be in the same situation as the Steelers because I cannot definitively say that anybody on that roster is better than anybody else. Yeah. All those guys, actually, Brock Purdy is probably the least qualified from his college career. But Sam Darnold was a man in college. Trey Lance was a man in college. And y'all even got a fourth quarterback. Y'all holding the roster spot for another guy based on the fact that y'all couldn't keep people healthy last year. That Super Bowl, that AFC NFC Championship game hangover y'all got from last year, y'all living it this year. Y'all should have been prepared last year. Now y'all wasting a roster spot this year. And as a casual fan, I don't know. You're a real fan and you don't know who's the best quarterback on your roster. Like your whole house is 49ers and you don't know who the best. You know what that means? That means the coaching staff didn't make it evident. That means it's not evident in the locker room. That means that there's going to be chips on everybody's shoulder all preseason because when Purdy goes out and plays some minutes with the starters, and then Sam Darnold is out there trying to earn a spot. He does better with the second string. He's going to be talking shit in the locker room. And then Trey Lance will come back off his injury like, y'all was just hold my spot warm. Like it's
But
too
if
much
Purdy's
controversy.
who they said he was,
Before you say that, I want to reiterate. Didn't I tell y'all we're not supposed to agree on this show? I told y'all before. This is the second time I had to
but
tell y'all we're
again,
not supposed to agree.
I'm about to disagree.
Hold that thought. The only difference is I put a little bit of icing on that. This is actually my how you say it, piece the resistance. This is it. I'm going back to the old quote. If you have two quarterbacks, you have
no quarterbacks.
and y'all have three.
Yes.
So that's why this whole Sam Darnold thing. But no. It's just three now. Because which one? Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, you got Allen. Allen's there now too.
Allen who?
He's a journeyman. He's a journeyman, but watching the camps. Sadly enough, I watched the camps.
Okay. But
and
I'm not even thinking
talking
about
good things about
the point that I'm making is now this whole offseason, there's supposed to be a quarterback who's supposed to take all the reps. And those reps are now spread apart on three, not two, but three over three quarterbacks. And I do think that will undo whoever is the starter because they're not going to be as prepared as they need to be for this. But I will say this with the 49ers roster, we could be looking at another situation, just like we talked about with Trent Dilfer, just like we talked about with Brad Johnson, just like we just talked about with Matthew Stafford, and once again, you're not going to like this, but Joe Flacco. This roster is so great, it might just be able to compensate for the fact that quarterback position isn't as strong as other positions. Or
we could pick up somebody before the trade deadline. There could be a deal made where we end up getting somebody who could really go ahead and take us there. Could be the guy.
I definitely feel like y'all need to trade one of these quarterbacks. Absolutely.
Yes. Because they have high value right now.
All I'm going to say is, which one do you trade?
Brock Purdy. Absolutely.
Brock Purdy. Wow.
That's not the one I would trade. That's not the one I would trade.
Trey
Lance is who I would trade.
I'm going to get the most value for Brock Purdy, like you already stated, right? If I got two quarterbacks,
but he might be a better quarterback.
He might be, but the point that I'm trying to get to is I'm trying to get me the better quarterback.
Hold on.
Thought process is I'm going to get
Brock Purdy. Hold on. Out of those three quarterbacks, at any point in their career, Brock Purdy looked the best at any given point in their whole career.
Yes, he did. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You're not going to get a better. Hold on. With these three quarterbacks, you're not going to upgrade your quarterback position.
I don't need my quarterback to win.
This is it.
In San Francisco, I don't need my quarterback to win.
I mean, in theory, if you go with what Brian's saying, if you trade a Brock Purdy to the Lions to get Jared Goff, you have a better quarterback, but you got to pay him a lot of money. Like, at least you got three guys on rookie contracts right now.
Who is this option? Who is it? When we talked about Matthew Stafford, we brought up Matthew Stafford. He was the only option also that comes into this conversation. He was the only option of somebody that the team was going to let go of, and we can go acquire him. Who's the option?
He don't know.
I don't know that we have a great option.
That's what I'm saying.
I have an option.
Jameis Winston.
Somebody else's.
Boy.
You know what? Sadly enough, so Jameis Winston, I feel like doesn't get the due that he could get, and I feel like my biggest issue with Jameis Winston is the fact that I'm scared that he can't keep his nose clean. That's my biggest issue with Jameis Winston.
Bring him back. Give it Jameis. Eat the doves. Come on. In the Bay. Eat the Bay doves. You feel me? No, I'm sorry. I don't think that you guys can get another quarterback that's better, that has played better than Brock Purdy did last year. And
we get a first round pick from somebody who's going to be bad. Can we get a first round pick from somebody who's going to be bad? Because I think that even with Trey Lance, I feel like we can go ahead and still go into our playoff push. We're not making the Super Bowl this year. I'm resigned to that. I already am okay with that.
I'm not so sure of that. So I wouldn't sell this year. If that's what you're saying, if I'm GM of 49ers, I'm not selling this year for the future. I'm trying to win this year.
Plus with Frankie Gore, I'm going to say that our running backs going to be even better than they were last year. Our running backs look good last year, but they're going to look great this year with Frankie Gore.
We'll see.
Not if
so
Christian Stafford can't stay healthy. Your other running back ain't healthy. Y'all have injuries at your running back position ever since Frank Gore left. Like
We do.
By the way, I just want
But
you to also during that era where like Frank Gore was playing, that was actually like my favorite running back. And when he came over to the Colts, I was like, "Oh, we got Frank Gore." I wish
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
I was sitting there like, "We got Frank Gore." Like, but that's
Frank is the GOAT. I love Roger Craig. I love Garrison Hurst, but Frankie Gore is the GOAT. That was the man.
The
The
inconvenience.
blocking alone, just his ability to block in pass protection was bar none. I've never seen a running back block as well as Frankie Gore. And I mean, like even to hear a guy like Clinton Portis talk about their days at the U together when Frankie Gore was running behind him, like he has nothing
No,
but the utmost.
whoa. He did not. Frank Gore did not run behind them. See, Clinton Portis and Willis McGahee got the opportunity to play because Frank Gore got hurt. But make no mistake about it, if Frank Gore was healthy, that would have been the number one running back there at the University of Miami. Absolutely.
Okay.
So okay, cool. So real quick, I don't think this part is going to take too long, but who y'all got winning the NFC West? I don't think. So I'm gonna just go ahead and start it off and say the Rams. No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's. I think it's pretty easy to see the 49ers win.
Yeah, I think we're the clear cut winner. And I don't think it's
Gino, my boy Gino. Listen,
here he goes.
Are you holding on to that?
Here he goes.
We beat you without a quarterback. I'm telling you that if we don't have a quarterback on the team, we're going to beat the Seahawks, okay? I'm not going to say that we're going to beat them twice because it's division rivalries. And guess what? I watched the Dolphins beat the doggone Patriots twice, and it was their only 2 wins. Like, I'm just saying, it's division. It can happen. Sure, we can lose to you, but we're going to be better than the Seahawks this year. That I can promise.
Your schedule is going to be more difficult. Geno Smith has another year to develop in the system. There's no quarterback controversy. The talent is pretty similar.
And it's Geno Smith too. What happened? What's happening? What's going on? Listen. It's going.
I don't know if he's going to out of family stuff. Y'all gonna argue on that one. I'm gonna just be back here.
I can promise you that when we're talking about this division, we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers and everybody else.
Just remember this, and history repeats itself all the time. You got a coach who's on the hot seat because he made some dumbass decisions over the last few years. And then Debo went to leave. Then you got a coach on the other side. Pete Carroll is solidified. He's going to make sound decisions. Your quarterback is going to make your coach is going to make decisions to stay employed, which is going to add to that quarterback carousel, right? Which is going to be more difficult for him. I like the 49ers. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll be one of the 2 teams out of this division make the playoffs. Mark my words, Geno Smith is probably going to have a better record at the end of the year. You guys did better.
So I just want to get it. I just want to get it on record. You are picking the Seahawks to win the division.
Yes.
Okay.
Let us remember this. You're picking the Seahawks to win a division. I'm picking the 49ers to win the division. And in December, we're going to know.
Just know this. When I picked my Ravens to win the Super Bowl and you brought your son to my house and to threaten to burn down my house, right?
Look, that was all on his own.
Who was right?
I just want everybody to know.
Almost won that game.
I got to speak to my fans real quick. Because you don't know football fans, I have no idea what they're talking about right now. I wasn't here for this. Burning down the houses is not something I'm a part of. I want y'all to know.
I actually got a video.
Y'all got 2 minutes for this before I wrap this up.
I'm going to send a video to you so you can see it.
I have no idea.
His son, 3 or 4 years old. His son, 3 or 4 years old, threatened to burn down my house because my team was beating his dad's team in the Super Bowl.
He said the Ravens can't win. If the Ravens win, I'm going to burn this house down.
And I said, get that little Camden joke out of my house. Like, we don't do that stuff around here. I live in the suburbs. Get that
joke. That's not what you said. You said
Camden kids are pretty rough. For everybody who don't know, for everybody in America who don't know about Camden kids, You don't want to go to Camden. I'm just let you know that. You think what you want, you don't want to go there. All right, guys, let's
But
wrap it up.
I told him, I said, you can take the kid out of Camden, but you can't take the Camden out of the kid.
That's never gonna happen. It's there for life. Life,
Oh,
okay? For life. Okay, cool. Well, I want to once again thank my special guest for bringing the heat this episode. Czar, you know you always one of the how do you say the regulars, the people that always come on back. Brian, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was been
thanks
a
for having me. I
pleasure.
appreciate it, man.
I appreciate your insight was definitely needed, and actually you came up with some points that I said that's actually I didn't consider that, you know. So once again, guys, you can check us out on Spotify, on YouTube. Those where the full episodes are. And then you can look at us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Man, we all over the place. We just grinding and we always doing our thing. Guys, we want to thank you guys for being on the show. And we look forward to seeing you guys throughout the year, throughout the season. And y'all better stay tuned. But once again, just like I always had to do, unfortunately, I had to tell you guys, cuz you don't know football. Thank you guys for coming on. And everybody, we love you. We'll see you when we see you.
Have a good one.